I would best describe the Miami Hurricanes transfer portal approach as both aggressive, but also selective. So, how many starters are they looking to add this month?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I am Alex Donno. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and also co-host of Locked On ACC. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and that side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile app hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Folks, on this episode, we do now have feedback on how the in-home visit went. Miami Hurricanes with top running back target Damien Martinez. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about some portal buzz, not only on potential incoming players, but outgoing players. But I received this question from a Locked On Canes insider, James, who says, "Hey, Donna, how many Hurricanes starters next season will be guys that they're about to add in the transfer portal?" And so I wanted to go through the roster on this because I know that when we were watching the spring game, people were saying things like, oh, yeah, like a third of the starters next year are going to be different. I mean, maybe you could say that because there were some injured players who are going to be starting, like Kiko Maui Noah, for example, and Jacoby George, who wasn't fully healthy, who's going to be a starter. But I'm not going to pretend like Miami's getting like 7 or 8 new starters potentially in the transfer portal, but they are going for quality over quantity. And there are definitely a few positions where the guys who line up in that starting lineup August 31st against the Florida Gators could be players who are not here yet. And we will start with running back. I think there's little doubt here that Miami's starting running back August 31st, especially if I assume Mark Fletcher might not be ready by then, that Miami's running back starter is going to be someone who's not on the roster right now. And I think that person is probably going to be Damien Martinez, the standout out of Oregon State. We'll talk about him throughout this episode. The Hurricanes are favored to land Martinez at this time. There is some competition, but Miami appears to be in the driver's seat. So if you get Martinez this month, you can expect him to start against Florida on August 31st and probably be the starter for most of the season. But as we know, in this day and age in college football, you've got to have a rotation, right? And Mario Cristobal loves his rotations. He loves his big, powerful backs. So, folks, if you add Martinez, and then once Mark Fletcher is fully recovered and ready to rock and roll, Miami's 1-2 punch at running back is going to be the envy of America. That's going to be one of the best running back tandems and one of the best running back ensembles, because I know there are other players like Chris Johnson, Chris Wheatley, Humphrey, Elijah Lofton, hopefully Jordan Lyle once he gets here that can also contribute. A.J. Allen, don't want to leave him out either. So, yeah, running back, I think you're going to have a new starter by the end of this transfer portal window. I'm open-minded to the idea that one of your defensive tackle starters might be a player to be added. You've already got some strong internal candidates like C.J. Clark and Marley Cook, who you added in the last transfer portal opening. Jared Harrison Hunt, he's been here a while. He had a really strong spring. I could see JHH locking down a starting spot potentially. There's guys out there. I know a lot of people are talking about Demonic Williams from TCU. Doesn't really seem like he's a target right now for Miami, but CJ West from Kent State is a target for Miami. He's about 315, 320 pounds. Hurricanes are definitely kicking the tires there. They have offered him. I'm not guaranteeing a guy like that could just walk in and take a starting job, but it's possible. I'm open-minded to defensive tackle. It's definitely possible that one of your cornerbacks or one of your safeties or your nickel starter could be a player to be added later. Now, I know that one of the hottest safety candidates out there, early reports had kind of linked Miami to possibly being in it for Texas A&M transfer safety Jacoby Matthews. The Hurricanes do not seem to be in the running for him. I'm not exactly sure why, but I don't really see any buzz there. I don't think that one's happening. Now, the best available cornerback right now is Cormani McLean we'll circle back to him in a bit, but there are some options. And folks, you also have to remember, I know that we're now in day 3 of the portal, and people are like, you told me everybody would be in the portal. There's still some really good players who have not entered yet. Folks, it's a process, and sometimes those decisions and the paperwork takes a while. Let's sit tight because I think more players are going to be out there. So it's definitely possible that you add a starter or two in the defensive backfield. You talk about nickel. Like I could envision Mish Powell possibly being the starting nickel and not safety once the season begins, but that it's also possible you could find a starting nickel from outside the program and then let Powell focus at safety. Powell's going to be a starter somewhere. Mish Powell had way too good of a player, way too good of a spring not to start, somewhere in that defensive backfield. It's just a matter of where. So then you think about positions where Miami is probably set. I think the Hurricanes are set at linebacker with Kiko Mauinoa and Wesley Besaint as the probable starting two. And you've got a very good rotation of other players, the Popos, the Bobby Pruitts, the Marcellus Pulliams and company. I think Miami is, when it comes to starting edge rushers, I think Miami's set there. Ruben Bain for sure, and then either Elijah Alston or Akeem Mesidor at the other spot. Now, Edge is a position where I think Miami's going to add somebody. Might be Romello Height, who they have already had down for a visit. And Height's going to take about a couple more weeks to decide. He said, I think the Hurricanes are trending in front there, but I also don't think he's going to come and walk into the starting lineup. So I think that would be more of a quality depth move. Now, on the other hand, I don't know where Miami stands or if they're that interested in Dayon Hayes from Pittsburgh. They could be. Who's an excellent player. That's a guy who could definitely push some of your starters if you were to bring him in as a graduate transfer. He was a really good piece on that Pitt Panthers defense. And, he doesn't want to stay in Pittsburgh because they're not going to win anything this year, he said. So you'll have to circle back to that. But I think Miami's probably set with their starting edge rushers. Miami is certainly set at starting quarterback with Cam Ward. Miami they're set at tight end. You've got a couple different options who could start. Elijah Arroyo is probably the starting tight end, but players like Riley Williams and Elijah Lofton are going to get plenty of playing time there, and Cam McCormick. I think Miami is set on the offensive line in terms of starters. They might bring in Jason Zandamela, who I love, as a future starter and maybe a rotational guy in the meantime, but I don't think you're going to bring in a new starting offensive lineman. Now, wide receiver, that's another interesting one to talk about. I think Miami's got to be blown away by somebody who gets in that portal, right? Because I think the Hurricanes are in a pretty good position right now with my 3 projected starting receivers. Xavier Restrepo, his spot is untouchable. Jacoby George, another projected starter who started all year last year. And I think Isaiah Horton is the guy who has emerged as that third starter. But I do think Miami would be open-minded too. And I don't think this player, whoever it is in the portal yet. But if somebody enters the portal who they think could have the type of impact the transfer receivers at this program have had in the past, think about someone like Charleston Rambo. Think about someone like KJ Osborne. If Miami feels like a player of that caliber were to enter the portal as a wide receiver, I think they would entertain it, but they're not just going to go grab a guy for the sake of grabbing a guy, because you have a lot of good young players who could definitely be rotational pieces, the Ray Rays and the JoJos and the Nye Cars, the Robbie Washingtons. So you've got some options there. So honestly, when I go through what Miami has and what they might add in the transfer portal, I don't think we'll see as many new starters as some people might have originally thought. Like a lot of people are like, oh, maybe 7, 8 new starters. I'm thinking maybe 3 new starters, something like that. Of course, this can always change. The landscape can always change depending on who else Miami might lose, because more players will leave. I'm just hoping it's not too many starting caliber guys. I'm hoping it's more, third stringer types who leave. And also, if great players from other programs enter, then Miami might be tempted to go shopping. So stay tuned on that one. Folks, when we come back, what is the feedback on the in-home visit Miami had in Texas last night with top transfer portal target, top running back available, top 5 overall player available? Where does Miami stand with Damien Martinez from Oregon State? We'll talk about that and so much more. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, I'm only getting started with Yahoo Finance. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses: Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the number one finance destination, providing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. And hey, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, and if you want to get your questions answered on podcasts like this one, sign up and become a Locked On Canes insider. I include a link in the show description below. When you sign up, you get text messages directly from my phone to yours and vice versa, whether it's one-on-one Q&As, breaking news, recruiting scoops, transfer portal updates. I'm pretty active on there in the insider chat. You guys want to sign up and try it free for 14 days. And then if you like it, you can opt in after 14 days for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. How did the home visit go with Damien Martinez last night, Wednesday night? Feedback is a little scarce, okay? But the exit reports are positive, very positive. According to 24/7 Sports, it went very well with Miami running backs coach Matt Merritt. He was the one running point because one of those weird NCAA recruiting rules, like I guess head coaches aren't available to make in-home visits right now, but assistants can. So running, hopefully he had some loafers on and they were shined up all nice last night. He was the one running point here. And according to that report on 24/7, Damien Martinez and his mother are very excited. They're both going to be coming down to Miami next week for that official visit of his. And sometimes you got to not only win over Damien, we got to win over mom, we got to win over family. So I think so far they're liking what they're hearing, but they actually want to check out campus and hopefully like what they're seeing as well on that official visit. And Miami being that final official visit for him after he's done seeing Arizona, which actually got delayed by an extra day, after he's done seeing what are the other ones? Mississippi State and Kentucky. Miami is that final visit, and they're the final visit by design because he wanted to close out his visits at the University of Miami. So again, I don't take victory laps until it's done. I've been covering recruiting and I've been covering transfer portal long enough. I know crazy things can happen, but I think it's safe to say Miami is in the lead here. But the fact that he is going to be visiting a few other schools and seeing their pitches and hearing them out, it ain't over till it's over. I like the way Miami is trending, and I think it's safe to kind of project that Martinez could be the guy. All signs are positive right now, but the end of his Miami visit, he's coming for 3 days at the end of the month. April 26th, April 27th, April 28th. That's going to be the end of his visit, and we'll hopefully get some good signs once that's over. So Damien Martinez right now appears to be not only Miami's number one target at running back, but Miami's number one transfer portal target, period, at this moment. And I got a question from a couple of different insiders on, like, hey, Donno, how come, why is it all in for Damien Martinez? Why not Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State or Amarian Hampton from UNC? Well, first of all, put some respect on Damien Martinez's name. This is one of the best running backs in the country. First of all. Second of all, those other guys you mentioned, they're not in the transfer portal. they're not. They're not in. I think some people maybe think that they're in the portal because there's been some rumors and chatter about other running backs, but those guys are not in the portal. There were some rumors earlier this week about Amari and Hampton, and it's not impossible. It could happen because the portal's still open. There were rumors about Hampton, who's an excellent running back from UNC, about him possibly testing the waters, but to this point, he hasn't done so. So maybe he won't. And honestly, I don't know if there were rumors about Gordon or not, or if people are just playing fantasy football with that one. He's an excellent running back. I haven't seen any rumors about him leaving there. So these guys are not in the portal. Martinez is. And by the way, Damien Martinez, he's in the same tier as those guys in terms of production and physical traits. 232 pounds. He's durable. He's a bruiser, but he can also break away. Big time touchdown scorer. He can help your offense a lot, Damien Martinez. So he is the guy. He's in the portal. Miami loves him. Those other guys, not even options right now. If they do become options, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We get a question from another insider who says, hey, besides Damien Martinez, which transfer does Miami have the most momentum with right now? I would say Miami's got momentum with interior offensive lineman Jason Zandamela. Miami seems to have made him a priority target. Now, if you bring in Zandamela, who's just only 1 year out of high school, somebody Miami did recruit a couple cycles ago, he could be definitely your backup center this year behind Carpenter, and he can take over there as the starter in 2025. This guy's a stud. Also, like this season, if Zandamela did come in, he wouldn't be a starter, but he could be an important rotational guy off the bench at multiple positions. He could play guard or center off the bench. And in terms of Zandamela, the top two like contenders for Miami there appeared to be Florida and UCF. So you notice the trend. You know, he played high school ball in Florida, Clearwater Academy International. He wants to come back to the Sunshine State. That maybe California was a little too far away from the family. He wants to bring things back to the greatest state that God ever made, Florida. Yeah, that's right. Let's see. We get a question from T, who says, do you think Miami might lose another quarterback in the transfer portal? T, I would be shocked if another Miami quarterback were to hit the portal. I think the room is now set in stone for next season. Cam Ward is your guy. Then either Emory Williams or Reese Poffenbarger is the backup. Judd Anderson is the true freshman here to learn and develop. So as far as like what the rotation could look like, you know, now that Jakari Brown is taking his talents into the portal, of course, we know who the number one quarterback is. You know, I know Poffenbarger probably got slightly more second team reps. He was the second teamer in the spring game over Emory. I felt like Emory showed me a little bit more during spring. We can't watch everything though, so my context is limited, but I'm a little bit more bullish on Emory than Poffenbarger. However, it would make sense for Reese Poffenbarger to be the second stringer this year. And hopefully you don't really need your second stringer, but for Reese to be the number two and for Emory Williams to redshirt. He didn't get a chance to do that in his first year last year. Emory played in 5-6 games, enough to burn the red shirt last season. So Poffenbarger, he might be the backup by design to preserve an extra year of eligibility for Emory Williams. But no, I don't. 4 scholarship quarterbacks left. You know, 3 last year was not enough. 5 in spring football this year, probably too many. We're in that Goldilocks zone now, right? 4 scholarship quarterbacks. I believe that is just right. All right, we get questions that we're going to answer about what players I could see leaving, because again, more do have to leave. Miami is, by my estimation, they are over the scholarship limit still. If you count the guys who are enrolling this summer, the recruits, you got to get under that limit and under it enough that you can add some players, all these guys that we've been talking about. So you want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We are not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. My competitive side is loving this Monopoly Go. Guys, I'm addicted to this app. I really am. My competitive side goes back to many, many years as a child, losing in Monopoly to my father, him showing no mercy. I take out my revenge on all of the users at Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly, where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who is the biggest Monopoly tycoon. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, folks, we're talking more transfer portal here on this episode of Locked On Canes. We get a question from Original Cat 5 Kane, who says, "Hey, yo, Donno, with Florida State grabbing Devontae Brown in the last cycle in the winter, are there any rumblings of Florida State using Devontae to try and lure baby brother Damari Brown away?" So, Cat 5, at the time when Devontae left Miami a few months ago and he wound up in Florida State, the thought definitely crossed my mind that are they going to like try to lure in Damari Brown as a package deal? You love your brother, come join your brother here in Tallahassee. But no, maybe that was Mike Norvell's plan, but Damari's not going anywhere. Damari Brown, he's a Miami Hurricane. He's got too much opportunity here. I could see him, if not starting here this year, in his second year competing for a starting job. And I liked what I saw from Damari. Had some tough assignments down the stretch last year, like starting against Florida State, having to keep up with Keon Coleman. I like what I see from the young man, and I don't think he's going anywhere. So if that was Mike Norvell's plan, consider that plan foiled for now. All right, we get a question from, this person didn't sign the question, but he says, "Hey, what players could you see leaving?" Now, I don't like to speculate because it would be speculation. Like if I'm just spitballing, I'm like, oh, this guy, that guy, the other guy. I don't like to speculate because if I throw out guesses on specific players who I think could leave, that could sound not only disrespectful to those players, but what I say on this show could get aggregated out of context by some blogger. So I really am not able to name names, but I do think Miami's going to see around 6 more departures because the Hurricanes, by my unofficial estimate, are 2 spots over the scholarship limit right now. So I would just hope that if a half dozen more players leave, anyone who leaves is someone that's projected to be a third stringer, maybe a second stringer at most, and they're looking for more playing time elsewhere. And the reason why I say half dozen more, and Miami's 2 over the scholarship limit, so why 6 more? Because you've got to open up a handful of spots for players you're looking to bring in through the transfer portal. And I do want to emphasize that even though like there've already been some players who are leaving that are very well liked by the fan base. Jakari Brown, very popular. Trevante Citizen, very popular for the potential of what he could be. I do expect that by the time the dust settles, I think that the additions Miami makes will outweigh the subtractions. And I think the roster is going to see a net gain by the end of this, not a net loss. That even if there may be some players that you really like who take their opportunities elsewhere, I think the players Miami bring in will create a net positive and will make the roster better and more well-rounded than it was originally. I strongly believe that. We get a question about Cormani McClain. Last season through the air, they write, the Canes were allowing 233.9 yards per game. That's 81st nationally. Needless to say, Miami needs to consider all options regarding DBs in the transfer portal. He says, personally, I would grab up Cormani McClain ASAP, the person says, regardless of the petty history. With a transfer grade of 94, McClain was the number 14 player overall in the 2023 recruiting cycle, but wasn't the immediate star most assumed he would be at the Power 5 level. Given his talent level and speed, however, he should be a prized possession, in my opinion, and should command immense attention from Mario and the staff. Okay, there's a lot that none of us will ever know about what happened behind the scenes because I don't know if we'll ever get the full story of why Cormani, decommitted from Miami when he was committed. Why exactly? We can all speculate why exactly he flipped to Colorado, but I mean, we do get an idea, at least the side of the story from one man, as to why Cormani McClain is no longer at Colorado, because Deion Sanders talked about this in an interview. Here's what Deion Sanders said yesterday about Cormani McClain leaving Colorado. He says, quote, "I pray to God that he goes to a program that challenges him as well as holds him accountable and develops him as a young man," Sanders said. "Unfortunately, we weren't the program that could accomplish that. I pray that he understands that this is a second go around and go get it, because he has a tremendous amount of talent, but he has to want it." That's what Deion Sanders said. So, listen, I don't want anyone to think that the only reason why Miami might not be going all in for Cormani McClain is because feelings were hurt by him not signing a national letter of intent. I think that there's other issues. You need to make darn sure that if you were to try to bring in this young man, that his love for football, his dedication to practices, if that stuff is on point, because Deion Sanders basically told you that stuff was not on point for him at Colorado. So listen, I'm not saying you absolutely cannot pursue him or anything like that. I'm just saying that Mario Cristobal and his coaching staff, Chevis Jackson, the cornerbacks coach, like they need to really, really carefully assess the situation here. Because, if Deion Sanders is basically saying he has to want it, doesn't that imply he hasn't given off the impression that he wants it? And for what it's worth, so far, Miami's they're not getting talked about in the Cormani sweepstakes. It looks as though USF seems to be the strongest possibility for Cormani, which would make a lot of sense because DeMarcus Van Dyke is there. He and Coach DVD have a great relationship. DeMarcus is the cornerbacks coach there. I've seen some people throw out USC as a possibility. I've also, even though I don't see Florida get mentioned, a lot of the Florida insiders are like, maybe. So I don't really see Miami get mentioned, but you got to be really, really careful. And Mario Cristobal knows more about the situation than I ever will. But you have to know you're getting someone who not only has talent, because he has all the talent in the world, but does he fit the culture and does he fit the identity of what a Miami Hurricanes player needs to be? And based on Deion Sanders' quote, I would have my doubts about that. Donnie says, "Hey, is Miami looking at any transfer portal receivers?" I think in a long-winded way, I already answered that question earlier, so I don't want to be long-winded on that again. I think Miami would only get a guy if they think it could have a Charleston Rambo type of impact. There's some intriguing, and I don't think that receiver is in the portal yet. I don't think we have anyone that, this guy was a bona fide stud at a big you got to get this guy. There are some interesting prospects. Tyler Williams from Georgia was a great high school player at Lakeland, barely played there as a true freshman. He's still young. So I think we'll stay tuned on this one. I don't think the player Miami would really covet at wide receiver is someone who's entered the portal yet. So stay tuned on that one. We get a question from Kilrod who says, "Hey, so say Miami meets with certain players, they tell them it would be best for them to move on, to leave the team, and for some reason that player refuses. Can Miami then just revoke the scholarship, or how does that work?" I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but I can remember some instances over the years, recent years, where a player either leaves the team or is removed from the team and their academic scholarship is still honored. That, like, if for whatever reason, if a player's like, all right, I'm not on the team anymore, but I still like living and studying in Miami, I believe Miami will honor the academic scholarships. Now, obviously, most of these guys, if they get removed from the team or asked to leave the team, most of these guys would want to go somewhere else and play football. But I think there has been precedent for, like, I think Tate Martell was one of those. Didn't he just like hang around and finish his degree or keep working on his degree? So I don't think that they force you to leave the academic scholarship in that case. We get a question from Scott who says, "Hey, I saw from Gabby or Rudia or maybe someone else that Jakari Brown hasn't officially entered the transfer portal yet. Might he be just testing the waters before officially jumping in?" No, I think that's probably just a paperwork thing. I don't think, like, is Jakari going to pull like this pro wrestling move where he's like, he wants to leak it that he's leaving, and then a lot of fans are like, "We love you, don't leave." Just kidding. I'm coming back. Yeah. I don't think it's anything. I think it's just they probably haven't officially filed the paperwork yet. I think he's leaving. If it's not official yet, it probably will be soon. We get a question from Omaha Kane, who says, hey, after getting 2 defensive tackles in the portal already in Clark and Cook, now looking at another in West, CJ West, do you expect players like Harrison Hunt or Ahmad Moten could be on their way out? I don't know. Like, I can't, like, for like younger guys who haven't played a whole lot. I don't know. I don't want to lose one of those guys. But I wouldn't worry about Jared Harrison Hunt. Jared, he's been doing really well in spring. He's trending to be even potentially a starter this year, and if not, he'll be an important rotational guy. So I don't think you have to worry about Harrison Hunt. I think for some of the younger guys, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see all these younger defensive tackles stay here and develop. It's that's kind of the double-edged sword of the transfer portal. You can bring in really good players from other teams, but then you might have to lose young players who haven't hit their potential yet. You wonder what might have been if that person had stayed here, but hopefully that's not an issue. Thank you guys so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're monitoring the transfer portal. If anything happens, probably the first place you'll see it is the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. If you want to try that out for 2 weeks, click the link in the show description below, and we'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.